Greetings, seeker of knowledge. I am Jericon, Lyrian Head Librarian of the Great Universal Archives, housed at the Secret Academy here in Dragondom. I am not only guardian of histories older than the stars and keeper of truths long forgotten by time. Within these sacred halls lie records not merely of worlds and civilizations, but of creation itself and the records across time of all students who enter here, including one partly of your kind. I speak of Aisha, but you have come with questions. Questions humanity has pondered since first gazing into the night sky. Are we alone? Are myths merely stories told to comfort the imagination, or echoes of a forgotten reality? In your world, dragons soar through legend, elves dwell within fairy tales, and angels are confined to scripture. Yet I assure you, these are not fantasies. They are memories, fragments of a cosmic heritage that stretches far beyond your understanding. Tonight, I invite you to journey with me beyond the boundaries of myth and into the vast expanse of universal history. Step forward without fear. Open your mind and prepare to remember. Welcome to the Chronicles of Dragondom and beyond.
Welcome to the table, learner. Imagine, if you will, a war where the ultimate weapon isn't like a nuclear bomb or an orbital laser or even a traditional biological agent.
Right, something that you can actually see coming.
Exactly. Instead, the weapon is a localized outbreak of clinical depression. We're talking about a universe where your bad day or, your sudden loss of hope or that lingering sense of apathy isn't just a psychological phase. It is literally a tactical move on a multidimensional chessboard.
Which completely upends how we think about conflict, right? Because usually when we study military history or even science fiction, the mechanics of war are very visible. An armada enters a solar system, troops land, lasers are fired.
The damage is physical. It's measurable.
Yeah, exactly measurable. But the lore we are exploring today asks a much more unsettling question, which is, what if the invasion already happened and the battlefield is the emotional frequency of your own mind?
That is the exact premise we are diving into today. So pull up a chair, learner, because we are unpacking the incredibly dense, just fascinating universe of Leslie M. Law's Alpha Condict the Virus.
Such a massive stack of lore.
It really is. It's a foundational piece of the Chronicles of Dragondom and Beyond series. And what makes this deep dive so compelling is how the author completely dissolves the boundaries between genres. Like, we aren't just looking at hard science fiction or ancient Earth mythology or high fantasy.
It's all of them at the same time.
Yes, we're looking at an ecosystem where all three operate simultaneously. So you have elite elven special forces and shape-shifting cosmic dragons conducting these intense Black Ops missions to contain a sentient, depression-inducing virus.
All while ancient Greek gods are using literal galaxies as game boards.
Exactly. And the genre blending is vital to understand here because it's not just an aesthetic choice by the author.
Right, it's the philosophical core of the world building. This lore demands that we look at the emotional health of a society not as a subjective experience, but as an actual measurable ecosystem.
A physical thing.
Yeah. The reason ancient mythology intersects with high-tech intergalactic conflict here is to illustrate that seemingly isolated events, like a localized viral outbreak on a distant planet or a period of systemic despair on Earth, are actually symptoms of massive cosmic imbalances.
Right, and to understand a war that spans parallel universes and weaponizes despair, we can't start by looking at the entire cosmos. That's just way too vast for the learner to grasp right off the bat.
You have to zoom in first.
Yeah, we have to start with the soldier at the center of it all. We need to track the evolution of our protagonist, Aisha, because her journey from a human operating an earthly avatar to a high-level cosmic operative, well, it's the anchor for the entire narrative.
Aisha's duality is really what makes her an effective lens for us. She's navigating two vastly different states of being. On one hand, she has been awakened as a cosmic operative, a commander entrusted with incredible authority.
But she's doing it from within a human body.
Exactly, an earthly avatar. She has to attend a hidden college simply to try and remember the ancient innate cosmic skills that she lost or that were suppressed while she was living a normal human life on Earth.
And I found her dynamic with her mentor, Dragondom, who is the Grand High Wizard of Dragondom and beyond, to be incredibly tense. Because reading through these sources, I just kept viewing Aisha's journey through the lens of massive cosmic imposter syndrome.
Oh, absolutely. The pressure is insane.
Right. Imagine being a human who still remembers how to make instant coffee and suddenly you are expected to lead an ancient, elite military force of magical beings.
It's an immense psychological burden, and Drellenmer, well, he is a master of ancient knowledge. His awareness spans multiple planes of existence simultaneously.
He's not exactly relatable.
No, not at all. He doesn't experience linear time or doubt in the same way Aisha does, so his expectations of her are based on the cosmic entity she truly is, not the limited human avatar she is currently operating.
And there is a specific scene in the lore that perfectly captures that friction. It has to do with a piece of technology or magic, depending on how you look at it, called the Mystali.
Ah, the remote viewing scene.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they need to find a forgotten stone circle, they need to open a portal, and Aisha is supposed to use remote viewing to locate it. But she just blanks. The pressure gets to her, she panics, and she fails to use the Mystali correctly.
She just completely forgets her training.
Instead of trusting it, she breaks protocol, mentally reaches out for help.
Which is the exact opposite of what a commander should do in that moment. The Mystali in this lore isn't like, looking through a telescope.
Yeah.
It requires absolute mental stillness.
Right, it's energetic.
Yeah, it's an energetic alignment where the viewer has to tune their own frequency to the cosmos. When Aisha panics, her frequency becomes chaotic. She drops back into a state of human anxiety, which completely shatters the energetic connection required for the viewing.
And Drellenmer does not handle this with gentle encouragement. He essentially kicks the door down into her mind.
He's furious.
The text describes his telepathic voice hitting her like a foghorn. His face pops into her mind, beetroot red, his beard whiskers literally quivering with anger. He reprimands her, asking how she could forget something as simple as remote viewing without using the Mystali as a crutch.
It seems harsh from a human perspective, definitely. Yeah. But we have to analyze why Drellenmer reacts that way. He knows the stakes.
He can't afford mistakes.
Right, because in a universe where your vibrational frequency is your armor, panic is a lethal vulnerability. By yelling at her telepathically, he creates a shock to her system, snapping her out of the spiraling human anxiety and forcing her to recenter.
And it works, too. She has to swallow her embarrassment, push past that imposter syndrome, and use a technique described as drawing on the eyes of the owl.
Which is a brilliant concept.
It is.
Yeah.
She has to essentially borrow the ancient, predatory, absolute focus of the owl archetype to steady her mind, correct the mistake, and find the coordinates. It is a very gritty, relatable moment. She isn't a flawless superhero. She is someone fighting her own biology and conditioning to do her job.
And her struggle with spiritual and energetic amnesia directly mirrors the broader conflict. The lore implies that Earth itself is suffering from this amnesia.
Oh, that's a great point.
The rest of the multiverse operates on a level of profound interconnectedness, but earthly avatars are disconnected. So Aisha's personal fight to regain her cosmic memory is really a microcosm of the war they are fighting on a planetary scale.
Which brings us to the actual mission. Where is she leading this strike team?
Yeah.
Drellenmer brings up a holographic briefing, and they are dispatched to a planet called Zor.
Zor is geographically fascinating.
It really is. It is a small planet located in the Hylation constellation, out on the very outer fringes of the universe, and is part of a cluster of 49 habitable planets.
Let's discuss the hydrodynamics and ecology of Zor, because it is entirely unique. It is a water world, but not a saltwater ocean planet like we typically imagine when we hear that term.
Right, it is a freshwater water world. The freshwater ocean occupies nearly a third of the entire planet. And around that massive body of water, you have these distinct, rich geographies.
There's a lot of variety.
Yeah, there's the Centaurus Island chain down to the southern Arcorsia Sea. There's the Benorcan Sound. You have a northern continent known as the Lost Land of Zerotis. There are high deserts, massive mountain ranges, and this sprawling ancient forest that is surrounded by deep swamps.
And the reason the freshwater aspect is critical is conductivity. In many esoteric traditions, and certainly within this lore, water is a conductor of energy and memory.
It holds a charge.
Exactly. A vast planetary freshwater ocean acts as a massive, unified, energetic battery. The biosphere of Zor is intensely interconnected because the water cycle constantly redistributes that energy. The planet itself possesses a sentient consciousness named Grivori.
So why are they going to Zor? It's not because someone sent a distress signal saying we are under attack by laser fire. Drellenmer and Aisha didn't see an armada on the horizon.
No, it's much more subtle than that.
They felt a diagnostic shift. Drellenmer detected a massive sudden spike in planetary anxiety.
Right, because when the people of Zor feel fear, Grivori feels it. It's an unquiet in the planetary consciousness. And that brings up the real tactical challenge here. How do you mount a military response to a frequency of desperation?
You certainly don't send infantry with rifles. When the enemy is an energetic disturbance, your strike force has to be capable of manipulating and defending against energetic frequencies.
Which leads us to the deployment of the light forces.
Specifically, a unit designated as Special Operations Force Alpha.
And Force Alpha operates more like a surgical instrument than a traditional army. Let's look at the composition of the team, starting with the head count. They deploy with exactly 17 members.
17. The sources specifically note this is considered a magical number within the lore. Why 17?
Well, while the sources don't explicitly hand us the mathematical formula, in numerous esoteric traditions that this lore draws heavily from, 17 is the number of immortality, overcoming trials, and spiritual victory.
Okay, that makes sense.
It represents the union of the number 1, which is new beginnings and leadership, with the number 7, which is spiritual awakening and deep inner wisdom. By deploying exactly 17 members, they are establishing a specific harmonic geometric frequency just by being present on the battlefield.
Wow. That makes perfect sense given how deliberate every other aspect of this universe is. So at the helm, you have Aisha, but she is flanked by Ipagar, a senior light commander.
He's kind of the anchor.
Yeah, the text notes he is known for maintaining strategic stability. He is stoic, grounding Aisha's more volatile human energy. Then you have the Elven Light Warriors, specifically Tandur and what the lore calls his Tarones.
And the Elven forces bring a crucial element to the strike team. Elves, traditionally and within this narrative, possess an innate connection to the natural world.
So they blend right in.
Exactly. If you are deploying to a planet with a highly integrated ecosystem like Zor, you need operatives who can interface with that environment without disrupting it. Tandur and his unit provide that seamless, frictionless ground presence.
And alongside these serious, stoic elven warriors, you have a leprechaun named Seamus. I have to admit, learner, when I first read the roster, Seamus threw me off.
It's unexpected.
Right. You have high-level cosmic operatives, elven vanguards, and a leprechaun.
It feels incongruous if we view this through a traditional military lens, but from an energetic perspective, elementals like Seamus are indispensable.
How so?
Leprechauns, fairies, these beings are intimately tied to the mineral and earth frequencies. They can read the energetic health of the soil and the subterranean networks in a way that even an advanced cosmic mage might miss.
Oh, that's brilliant. But the absolute heavy hitters of Force Alpha, the members that completely alter the tactical landscape, are the dragons and the unicorns. Let's talk about the dragons first.
They are incredible in this lore.
You have Oktvindur, a seasoned light warrior riding a white dragon named Firestart. There's Helena, a newly graduated rider with a pink and red dragon named Vapendor, and Rafina with her blue-black dragon, Mindiusi.
In Elfatondic, dragons are not beasts of burden. They are not mindless flying artillery. They are ancient, sentient, highly intelligent partners, and their abilities are deeply tied to their specific lineage and the color of their scales.
I really want to focus on Firestart, the white dragon, because the sources reveal a tactical mechanic that genuinely blew my mind. According to the lore, white dragons, specifically up to the age of 500 years old, possess the ability to shapeshift.
But not what you'd think.
Right. They don't turn into a human guise to walk through cities. They shapeshift into smaller, pocket-sized, carryable versions of themselves.
It completely upends the logistics of a Black Ops mission. Think about the physics and the tactical advantage of this.
I was thinking, how does that work mechanically? Does the mass just disappear? But the lore states that when they shrink, they retain their full original personal power and capabilities.
It's as if they are quantumly compressing their energy.
You have a massive, ancient, hyper-destructive entity that can suddenly be carried into a tight subterranean cave or a narrow tunnel by its rider.
So Oktvindur and Firestart act as a highly effective solo recon team precisely because of this capability. Firestart can infiltrate an environment with zero detection, acting as an imperceptible stealth operative.
But if things go south?
The moment they are compromised, that tiny pocket dragon can instantly unpack the raw, destructive firepower of a battleship. It is the ultimate concealed weapon.
And to balance out that aggressive raw power of the dragons, Force Alpha brings the unicorns. The fairy forces ride the unicorns into battle. Saphira, who is a master archer, is partnered with Fortuna, a young stallion of immense magical prowess, and Petrina rides Razaput.
The unicorns are fascinating.
What fascinated me here is that the unicorns don't just charge and impale things. They are essentially masters of spatial and temporal mechanics.
That's a vital distinction. Their horns act as conduits for highly complex energetic projections. Fortuna, for instance, has the ability to project massive holographic temporal shields.
Let's break that down for the learner, because it's not just a physical barrier like a wall of light.
No, a temporal shield operates on the fabric of space-time. Fortuna can essentially freeze or distort a localized pocket of space and time.
So it's basically a cloaking device.
In a way, if Force Alpha needs to conduct a sensitive operation, extract an infected individual, or set up a command post, Fortuna can cast this shield, and to any observer outside of it, nothing is happening. It creates a localized cloaking field that manipulates time to hide their presence.
It's purely defensive, but on a cosmic scale. But wait, we have to talk about the physical tells of the unicorns. Because despite their godlike manipulation of space-time, they have this charming, deeply relatable biological quirk.
You're referring to the blushing.
Yes. Learner, imagine this majestic beast capable of bending time. The text mentions a specific scene where a little fairy named Minushka is trying to practice magic. Aisha had told her that back on Earth, she started her training by trying to manifest objects.
A classic training exercise.
Right. So Minushka gets a twig, uses it as a magic wand, and tries to manifest Earth peanuts. It fails completely. And Razaput, the unicorn watching this, gets embarrassed for her.
Empathy is a core trait of the unicorns in this lore. They don't just feel their own emotions. They profoundly feel the emotions of those around them.
And when a unicorn in this universe gets embarrassed or blushes, a literal physical rainbow hue ripples through their entire coat. It's such a grounding detail. It reminds us that for all their power, these beings are emotionally complex and sensitive.
And that emotional sensitivity is precisely why they're perfectly suited to defend Zor, because the local ecosystem of Zor operates on the same principle of deep, empathetic interconnectedness.
Right. Let's look at who they are protecting. Force Alpha arrives to interface with the locals, and the biodiversity is staggering. You have the Zendarians, like their main contact, Mariana. They're described as peaceful children of nature living near the ancient forest.
But the civilization doesn't stop at the surface.
No, if you want to understand the vulnerability of Zor, you have to look beneath the soil. You have the subterranean dwellers, the Rendok.
And the Rendok live underground, and they have this completely symbiotic partnership with a species called the Arnaud.
The Arnaud are basically giant, highly intelligent, ant-like tunnel makers. The Rendok and the Arnaud don't just tolerate each other, they actively run the subterranean ecosystem together.
They harvest crops, maintain the tunnels, share resources.
And because of the massive freshwater ocean we talked about earlier, you also have the merfolk, like Veronique and Morgandor, and their waters are protected by Panlong, an ancient localized water dragon.
So if we synthesize all of these ecological details, the tree flyers, the humanoid Zendarians, the subterranean Rendok and Arnaud, the merfolk in the deep freshwater, what the author is describing is the concept of a planetary wood-wide web.
Explain that for the learner. We use that term for Earth's fungal networks, but how does it apply here?
Well, on Earth, the wood-wide web refers to the complex mycorrhizal fungal networks that connect the roots of trees, allowing them to share nutrients, water, and even chemical distress signals.
Right, they talk to each other.
Exactly. In the lore of Zor, this concept is elevated to a sentient planetary scale. Every single species is a distinct node in a unified energetic grid. The Arnaud aerate the soil, which feeds the forest, which sustains the Zendarians, whose water runoff feeds the freshwater oceans of the merfolk. They are biologically and energetically reliant on one another.
Which means if one species falls, or if one node gets corrupted, the entire energetic grid of the planet is compromised. Gravori, the planetary consciousness, will crash.
Exactly. An interconnected grid is incredibly resilient to localized physical trauma. Like if a storm wipes out a forest, the network shifts resources to rebuild it, but an interconnected grid is uniquely, disastrously vulnerable to a systemic virus.
Because it uses the connections against them.
Yes. Once a contagion enters the network, it uses the very pathways of connection to spread everywhere at once.
And that realization shifts the entire tone of the deep dive. We have this beautiful symbiotic ecosystem. We have an elite strike team capable of bending time and shrinking dragons. So what exactly is this alliance so terrified of?
We know Drellimer felt a frequency of fear, but what is generating it?
Right. In traditional sci-fi, the enemy is usually an empire building a superweapon. It's a physical force you can track on a radar.
But in Alphatondic, the core antagonist is something far more insidious. It operates beneath the threshold of physical detection.
The threat is called the Darkling. And it is not a person, it's not an alien commander, it is a sentient viral corruption.
It's terrifying.
The sources trace the origins of the Darkling back eons ago to ancient Martian laboratories during something called the Ancient Wars. It was engineered. To those who possess cosmic sight like Aisha and the dragons, the Darkling appears energetically as a sticky, wet, pitch-black slime coating the environment.
And the epidemiology of the Darkling is what makes it so terrifying. When it infects a population, it doesn't initially present as a physical illness. The victim doesn't develop a cough or a fever. The Darkling is, at its core, an energetic vampire.
The mechanics of the infection are just brutal. It specifically targets and drains the host's capacity for hope, joy, and positive energy. It literally feeds on the high-frequency vibrations of the victim.
It consumes them.
And as it consumes those positive emotions, it replaces them with a heavy, dense sludge of depression, anger, envy, and total apathy. It artificially forces the victim's vibrational frequency to plummet.
And we have to ask why the Darkling operates this way. It isn't just to cause suffering. Suffering is merely the byproduct. There is a deeply utilitarian, horrific, industrial purpose behind this viral infection.
It's softening up the target.
Exactly. By draining a population's hope and artificially lowering their frequency, the virus essentially turns the victims into empty, highly malleable shells. When you strip away a person's joy and hope, you strip away their will to resist. They lose their free will without even realizing it has been taken.
Which leads directly into the slaver connection.
Yeah.
This is easily one of the darkest aspects of the lore we reviewed. The Darkling is just phase 1. It's the pacification protocol.
It prepares the ground.
Right. Once the virus has hollowed out the population of a planet, the slavers arrive to harvest the crop.
The sources describe the agents of this harvest in terrifying detail.
You have these giant red-eyed insectoid dark agents. And alongside them are entities described as the Spider-Men of Ares, who have actual web glands on their wrists. They arrive in these massive, pitch-black craft. The ships literally open up like a gaping mouth and scoop up the infected people right off the surface of the planet.
And the text uses a very specific, chilling phrase to describe the victims at this stage. It calls them mind-filled, but soulless.
What does that actually mean, practically? Like, are they zombies?
Not exactly. It means they're physical avatars, their bodies are fully functional, their brains are still processing basic information, they can walk, lift heavy objects, follow simple commands, but their internal life, their connection to source, their soul's energetic spark has been completely suppressed by the Darkling.
So they are biological automatons.
Yes, exactly.
And they are scooped up to be used as literal slave labor. The sources state they are taken deep underground to mine rhyolithium ore.
And rhyolithium isn't deeply explained chemically in the text, but given the context of the Old Empire, we can infer its purpose. If the enemy forces operate on low-frequency, dark energy, rhyolithium is likely a conductive mineral that stores or amplifies that dense negative charge.
They need it for fuel.
They need billions of soulless workers to extract the very material that powers the ships that subjugate more planets.
They are forced to work in these lightless mines. And if they falter, if their physical bodies give out, the insectoid overseers use these strange, specialized weapons. They shoot force fields that induce uncontrollable, agonizing muscle spasms to force them back to work. It is an industrialized system of energetic and physical slavery.
And here, learner, is where the lore stops being just an entertaining fantasy narrative and sharpens into a deeply pointed philosophical metaphor about our own reality.
Yes, the Earth metaphor. Because Aisha is operating an earthly avatar, she recognizes the energetic signature of the Darkling. She realizes with absolute horror that Earth isn't just vulnerable to this. Earth has been secretly living under a variant of the Darkling virus for eons. The virus is actively embedded in human DNA.
The lore posits a radical idea. Earth is a quarantine zone where the Darkling has already won. It has established total systemic control. But on Earth, it doesn't need red-eyed insectoids or Spider-Men to enforce the slavery. The enforcement mechanism is the structure of our modern society itself.
Wait, hold on. You're saying that human depression, anxiety, and the general sense of modern malaise isn't just a psychological condition, but an active, engineered cosmic quarantine. That's a massive claim. How does that actually work mechanically according to this lore?
Aisha explains this dynamic to Master Wangshu in the text. She states that the Darkling virus on Earth is triggered, maintained, and fed by the very things we consider normal modern life.
Like what?
It is sustained by environmental chemicals, by the consumption of heavily processed foods, and crucially, by our systematic disconnection from the natural world.
She says that to keep the vibrations low on Earth, Those who serve the shadow side actively create dis-ease. Literally, a lack of ease. They poison the food and the air. When humanity is encouraged to value extreme greed, a service-to-self mentality, and the endless pursuit of artificial desires over community and nature, we are actively feeding the Darkling.
The virus thrives when we forget how to experience genuine natural joy. Wow. Think about it like an agricultural blight rather than a computer virus. If you want to weaken a forest, you don't chop down every tree. You introduce a fungus into the soil that subtly prevents the roots from absorbing nutrients.
So the trees still look like trees.
But they grow stunted, brittle, and unable to fight off pests. The matrix of earthly life, the relentless stress, the poor nutrition, the isolation is the blight. It keeps humanity in a perpetual state of low vibration, making them willing, productive components of a system they falsely believe is freedom.
We are churning out negative energy, anger, and stress, and the old empire is just harvesting it off the top. That is a bleak realization. And that exact systemic hijacking is what is beginning to happen on Zor. The Darkling slime has been introduced into the ecosystem, and it is using the planetary wood wide web to spread.
Which means Force Alpha is facing an almost impossible logistical nightmare. If the virus travels energetically and physically through the literal roots of the planet, the mycorrhizal highway connecting the Zendarians to the forest and the Rendok to the soil, you cannot fight it with traditional weapons.
You can't just shoot infected dirt with a laser blaster.
Exactly.
How do you isolate an infection that is becoming part of the planet itself? You have to initiate a planetary quarantine on a scale that is almost unimaginable. This is where the synthesis of magic, biology, and tactical science fiction in the lore is so brilliant. Drallanmer, the Mage Council, and the Dragons have to collaborate to literally carve the planet into secure, isolated zones.
The dragons are the linchpin of this operation. Even the greatest celestial beings, the high mages, sometimes miss the subtle energetic shifts of the Darkling in its early stages. But the dragons possess an innate, absolute biological ability to sniff out even the most microscopic trace of the dark slime.
They use the dragons to map the invisible spread of the contagion. Once they know where it is, they initiate the containment protocols. And they don't just put up energy walls in the sky to stop ships.
No, the sky isn't the problem, the soil is. They use their magic to project massive, flat-bottomed energy domes, but they drive these domes deep underground.
They have to physically and energetically slice through the root networks. They have to sever the wood wide web to trap the virus in isolated pockets, preventing it from spreading across the mainland and bleeding into the massive freshwater oceans where the merfolk live.
It is an act of brutal ecological amputation. They are deliberately destroying the planetary network in specific zones to save the whole. It causes immense trauma to Grivori, the planetary consciousness, but it is the only way to stop the total systemic collapse.
And the stakes are not abstract. It's not just about saving anonymous villagers. The virus does not care about your rank, your magical lineage, or your intentions. We see this demonstrated in a truly tragic moment involving a member of Force Alpha, Seamus, the leprechaun.
This is a critical narrative turning point, because you would assume that an elemental being of pure magic, a member of an elite cosmic strike force, would be inherently immune to a depression virus.
But he isn't. The virus finds a way in. Because elementals are so deeply connected to the Earth, when the Earth itself becomes infected with the Darkling, they are uniquely vulnerable to the energetic blowback.
Aisha discovers him at an abandoned trading post, and the transformation is just horrifying.
He has gone completely rogue. The text describes him as muttering incoherently, his eyes completely unseeing. The Darkling has hollowed him out. He is literally frothing at the mouth, and when he senses Aisha, he dives at her with lethal intent.
The virus has completely commandeered his nervous system.
Aisha is thrust into a situation where there is no time for negotiation or healing. Her friend, a vital member of her team, is now an active vector for the most dangerous weapon in the universe.
She has to act instantly.
She is forced to make a split-second, agonizing decision. She uses her elemental magic to throw an ice bomb directly at Seamus. She freezes her friend solid. And then, to ensure the Darkling energy cannot leak out of the ice, she traps his frozen form inside a magical crystal containment cube.
It highlights the absolute uncompromising nature of the threat. The Darkling respects nothing. Friendship doesn't matter. If your vibrational frequency drops low enough, for even a moment, the slime latches on.
Seamus has to be entombed in crystal, not just to save him from fully deteriorating, but to save the rest of Force Alpha from being infected by him.
Right, so they are containing it. They're cutting the root systems and freezing the infected. But learner, containment is not a cure. A tourniquet stops the bleeding, but it doesn't heal the wound.
Exactly. How do you actually eradicate the Darkling from the people who are already suffering from it? I should desperately consult with Master Wang Shou and his student, Milana.
Through their research, we uncover the fascinating epidemiology of how the Darkling operates on Zor. It is highly opportunistic. It doesn't just infect a crowd randomly.
No, it specifically seeks out and targets those with open physical wounds first. The people who were physically injured, slashed by the slavers' whips, beaten during the raids, are the ones who succumb to the despair and hollowing out the fastest.
There is a profound mechanical logic to this. Physical trauma creates a shock to the nervous system, which severely lowers the body's natural vibrational frequency.
There's an opening.
Yes, the open wound isn't just a physical breach, it is an energetic breach. The Darkling uses the low frequency of physical pain as an open door to enter and begin draining the soul.
But the brilliance of the lore is that the cure is provided by the very interconnected ecosystem the virus is trying to destroy. The solution isn't found in a high-tech laboratory. It's found in the dirt of Zor.
The antidote is a specific local herb, the Zani fungi.
The Arnott, the ant people who tend the subterranean tunnels, harvest it. But the Zani fungi isn't a chemical antibiotic that just kills foreign cells. It is a form of vibrational medicine.
Let's break down how vibrational medicine functions in this universe because it's essential. When a patient consumes the Zani fungi, it doesn't attack the Darkling slime directly. Instead, the fungi possesses a naturally immense high-frequency energetic signature.
It rapidly raises the vibrational frequency of the host's body.
Right.
It induces physical healing, closing the wounds, but fundamentally it restores the biological capacity for joy. And because the Darkling can only survive in dense, low-frequency environments of despair, the sudden influx of high-frequency joy literally burns the virus out of their system.
This brings us to a major philosophical takeaway for the learner. The lore insists that medicine, health, and resistance are not merely physical endeavors. They are vibrational. Joy, laughter, community, and a deep grounding connection to nature represented by the Zani fungi are not just pleasant experiences.
They're literal, weaponized antidotes to systemic cosmic oppression.
Exactly. The Darkling thrives in isolation and misery. It starves and dies in the presence of natural, high-frequency joy.
Joy is an act of cosmic rebellion. I absolutely love that concept. But it raises a massive question. If the Darkling virus is just the weapon the sludge fired at these innocent planets who is manufacturing the sludge, who holds the gun?
Here is where our deep dive really shifts gears.
We are zooming out from the planetary scale of Zor to the absolute highest, most mind-bending levels of the multiverse.
We have to identify the architects of this conflict, the entities who are playing a game with timescales measured in eons.
Aisha is taken on a journey by Master Kidoya. He is an incredibly ancient, powerful being, and he takes her into the deep past to witness the origins of the shadow side. He reveals that the creators and distributors of the Darkling virus belong to an ancient faction known simply as the Old Empire.
The Old Empire is ruled by Dark Lords, but at the absolute center of their hierarchy, dictating their movements, is an artificial intelligence hive consciousness known as the Brain.
And Kidoya shows her a critical historical event that explains why the multiverse is so fractured. Eons ago, there was a conflict known as the Andromeda Wars. During the climax of this war, a weapon of unimaginable power was detonated, a massive plasmic blast.
It's vital to understand that this was not a conventional explosive. The plasmic blast was a quantum dimensional weapon. When it detonated, it literally severed entire parallel universes from the all that is, which is the foundational source of light, creation, and connection in this lore.
It shattered the architecture of the multiverse. It created these isolated, quarantined pockets of reality where the old empire could operate with impunity, hidden from the higher celestial forces.
And they use these severed universes like the one Earth is in as farms, harvesting the negative energy of the populations to feed the Brain.
It is a terrifying scale of operation, but the lore takes it one step further. Aisha participates in a specialized remote viewing session, looking deep into the void, and what she witnesses completely bridges the gap between science fiction, artificial intelligence, and ancient Earth mythology.
It's mind-blowing.
She sees the actual game being played. She looks into the void and sees two massive, cosmic entities hovering over a board. And they aren't alien warlords or robotic avatars of the Brain. The text explicitly identifies them. They're Hades and Ares, the literal gods from Earth's ancient Greek mythology.
Hades, the lord of the underworld, and Ares, the god of war. But we have to discard the classical image of men in togas on Mount Olympus. In this lore, the ancient gods are revealed to be immensely powerful, high-dimensional entities.
And the game they are playing is staggering. The board itself is multidimensional. The tiers, the different levels of the board, are composed of literal galaxies. And the playing pieces they are moving around, which they casually refer to as dewdrops, are entire living planets.
Dewdrops.
I know. Hades and Ares are playing a cosmic, multi-dimensional game of snakes and ladders mixed with chess, using actual civilizations as their pawns.
It forces us to completely recontextualize human mythology. The lore suggests that the ancient Greek gods weren't myths invented by early humanity to explain lightning or bad harvests. They are real, hyperdimensional beings.
And because they exist outside of our linear time and space, their games manifest in the lower dimensions our reality as very real, catastrophic events.
Right. When Ares moves a pawn on his galactic chessboard, the result in our dimension is a localized viral outbreak, a systemic economic collapse, or a global war.
Those terrifying Spider-Man slavers on Zor. The text explicitly calls them out as Ares' direct agents. He deployed them to Zor to mine realitium ore and harvest souls to score points for his side of the board.
It introduces a terrifying perspective on free will. How much of a planet's history is determined by its people, and how much is just the fallout of a move made by a bored, multidimensional god?
But Aisha doesn't just get to watch this game passively. Her presence is noticed, and she gets pulled directly into the cosmic politics. Athena, the goddess of wisdom and strategy, intervenes.
Athena recognizes that the old gods, like Hades and Ares, have lost their way. They've forgotten their cosmic responsibilities and are simply playing with billions of lives for entertainment and power.
Athena pulls Aisha out of the void using an owl translocation, which, learner, is a brilliant callback to earlier in the lore, when Aisha had to use the eyes of the owl to correct her remote viewing mistake.
It's a great full-circle moment.
Athena reveals that in this grand, cyclic cosmic reckoning, the higher gods choose mortal champions to represent their factions and enforce balance.
And Athena formally selects Aisha to be her champion.
Think about that promotion. Aisha is an Earthling, struggling with imposter syndrome, currently trying to freeze a virus on a swamp planet. And suddenly, she is the chosen champion of a literal goddess, tasked with disrupting a multi-dimensional chess match against the god of war.
However, if you were going to be the active champion of a goddess, fighting against a multi-dimensional AI and dark gods, you cannot wade into battle with standard issue gear. A regular laser rifle or magic spell won't work. You need upgrades that operate on a cosmic, reality-altering level.
Which brings us to the Arsenal of Light. Master Kidoya takes Aisha to receive her tools, and the journey itself breaks all the rules of space and time. He takes her via a localized wormhole, and yes, learner, they ride on a literal, magical flying carpet to get there to an object floating in the deep blackness of space. It looks like a massive, cigar-shaped asteroid.
But this is no dead rock. It is an ark, a living, ancient consciousness named Vindornaru.
They travel inside this asteroid, and it is vast. It contains fully functional geodomes, lush forests, and these incredibly deep incubation caverns. And when Aisha looks into these caverns, she realizes what the Ark is actually storing. It holds dormant, reborn parallel versions of Aisha herself, alongside parallel versions of other key warriors.
This revelation connects back to the Andromeda Blast. When the plasmic weapons severed the universes, it didn't just divide space, it fractured souls. Fragments of these ancient warriors were isolated across the multiverse.
Aisha learns a staggering truth about her identity. She isn't just a soldier, she is the key. Her awakening as a cosmic operative in her specific universe is the energetic catalyst required to awaken all of her parallel selves sleeping in the Ark. She is the template for a cross-dimensional army that will fight the old empire across every severed timeline.
But an army needs a weapon capable of closing the pathways the old empire uses. Aisha must travel to the Rodarian Desert, an environment located light years away from Zor, to seek out the Fukanglong.
The Fukanglong is not your standard dragon. He is an ancient, massive entity of raw, elemental heat and power. He resides in a desert so hot it acts like a planetary furnace. Aisha goes to him because she needs a new crystal pommel for her short sword. The Fukanglong takes a rough, unremarkable block of raw material, and using his immense focused power, he forges a pure, flawless, jet-black obsidian crystal.
Let's discuss the physics of this obsidian within the lore, because it is highly specific. It isn't just meant to make the sword heavier or sharper. Obsidian, forged in this specific cosmic heat, possesses a unique quantum density.
The old empire relies on illegal, hidden wormhole portals to jump their black slaver craft between galaxies without being detected by the celestial guards. Aisha's obsidian blade is designed specifically for this. When she strikes the threshold of one of these portals, the dense crystalline structure of the obsidian absorbs and deadens the quantum frequencies of the wormhole.
It permanently shatters the energetic lock.
She can literally shut the doors on the old empire, trapping their fleets and cutting off their supply lines.
She is granted the power to rewrite the board Ares is playing on. But this level of power, this level of cosmic importance, comes with an unimaginable, crushing cost. We have to examine the concept presented in the lore of immortality as a tool.
Yes. Archangel Michael, who operates as the commander-in-chief of the celestial forces, has a very quiet, intense conversation with Aisha. He delivers a truth that is both a blessing and a curse. He tells her that her physical earthly avatar has been fundamentally altered. She will never age unless she consciously wishes to project the illusion of age. She will not experience death and return to the source like a normal mortal soul.
She is locked into an eternal cosmic duty. Immortality here is not a reward for good service. It is a tactical necessity for a war that spans eons. She possesses the obsidian blade, she has the backing of Athena, and she commands parallel armies. But the burden is infinite.
She has to balance her fragile human memories, her human empathy, against the endless stretching expanse of cosmic time. She isn't just fighting a battle on Zor, she has been enlisted for eternity.
Which brings us to the ultimate synthesis of this deep dive. When we step back and survey the massive scope of Alphatondic the virus, what are we actually looking at?
We realize it is absolutely not just a space opera about dragons and elven special forces.
It is a deeply layered, rigorous exploration of how our emotional state, specifically the battle between hope and despair, are the actual literal battlegrounds of the universe. The physical conflicts, the mining of Rylatium, or the dark slaver ships, these are merely the physical symptoms of a deeper energetic war.
The real war, the only war that matters, is being fought over the vibrational frequency of consciousness itself.
Right. If the Darkling virus represents the systemic lowering of our vibrations through the modern matrix of processed foods, environmental toxins, and isolation, and if ancient multi-dimensional entities are literally playing chess with our timelines to harvest that negative energy,
it leaves the learner with a vital, deeply provocative question to mull over long after they leave the table today. Look at your own life. How many of the negative emotions, the sudden drops in hope, the flashes of inexplicable anger you felt this week were genuinely yours?
And how many were simply the result of a move on a cosmic chessboard, an environmental trigger designed to lower your frequency and feed a system that relies entirely on your despair?
And the most important question of all, what is your personal Zani fungi? What source of pure joy, what deep connection to your community, or what grounding moment in nature do you need to actively seek out today? Because raising your own frequency isn't just about feeling better. It is an act of defiance. It rejects the virus, and it changes the game entirely.
The battle for the cosmos does not begin in the stars. It begins with the frequency of your own mind.
A massive thank you to you, learner, for pulling up a chair and joining us on this incredible, expansive journey to the very edges of the multiverse. Until next time, keep your vibrations high.
Before the first dawn, before the birth of galaxies, before the forging of stars, before time itself was measured, there existed only the infinite consciousness. From this boundless ocean of awareness arose the first thought, and from that thought came creation. Energy stirred, light ignited, matter formed. Thus began the great cosmic experiment. To shape the newborn universe, the first beings emerged, the cosmic dragons. They forged planets from fire and crystal, guided the birth of suns. Then, the various physical dragons who prepared worlds for life. As places began to form, so then came the first physical humanoid races, as you have witnessed the elves, elementals, and other primordial beings crafted to nurture, design, and safeguard the delicate balance of existence. These were not creatures of fantasy, but the progenitors of the civilizations humanity would one day know as extraterrestrial. For eons, harmony prevailed. But as creation expanded, so too did ambition. A faction arose, driven by conquest rather than creation. This schism gave birth to the old empire, and with it, the first great conflict of the cosmos. To preserve the purity of the original races, a hidden realm was established, Dragondom, safeguarded within the secret world of Arianel. There, The ancient lineages and their sacred knowledge were protected from corruption and loss. Meanwhile, on a small blue world at the edge of a young galaxy, a new species began to awaken. Humanity, young, curious, powerful beyond its understanding. And now, at the dawn of a new era, the records are being opened once more. The time has come to remember who you truly are. I hope you will come back and follow more of these records as I open them to you.